Mom and my dad got divorced when I was like in kindergarten. So she was very young. We moved in with my grandparents, and they lived out in the country. And so my grandparents practically raised me up until I was 18, going into college. And so my mom, my grandparents, and I were all together all the time, lived way out in the woods, and that's all I ever did. I'm the only child as well. My grandpa was strict Christian, good Christian man. My whole family was, but he was like the foundation, he was like the old school family. My grandma was at home all the time cooking and canning, and I'd get out off the bus, run through the woods. I could smell the food cooking. Papa would get off work, we'd work in the garden, come in, and he'd have his Bible in his hand. And every evening before he went to bed, he had that Bible out. And since my dad left, he was never in the picture. It was my grandpa looked up to. Anyway, he would take us to church, and we were really poor. I don't know how he afforded gas. I guess it was cheap back then. But it was like about 40 miles, and we went Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening. But going back to being saved, everybody has that moment where they're like, oh, I was saved, at so-and-so date and time. And I've heard people say, well, if you don't know that, something's wrong. But I don't think that's true, because I grew up with my grandparents when I was young in such a good household. It was like I was always at church, but like a loving, good way. It was always just good manners being taught, and everything was relating to the word. And it was I think it was a revival of all things. I had to go to all of them, being young and in the country, And I think it was one of the revivals. I just gave my life to Christ. And even though I get, parents, my grandparents passed and everything, and I go and live my own life, I always had that seed planted. I knew right from wrong. And even up to my mom's dying day, she would always preach. What was the way she said it? You teach them the right ways, and they come back to it, or something like that. I don't know the exact phrase, but it's true. So I'm just blessed to be here and be a child of God.